Recording in progress.
What is the announcement? Sorry. Okay. We're going to call the hearing to order, the Montecito Planning Commission. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, and I will do our TV coverage announcements. Montecito Planning Commission hearings are televised on County of Santa Barbara Television CSB-TV, Channel 20, at 9 a.m. in the South Coast, Lompoc, San Ynez Valley, Santa Maria, Orca areas. Rebroadcast of Montecito Planning Commission hearings are on Fridays, 5 p.m. on CSB-TV, Channel 20. This hearing will also be streamed live on CSB-TV's website and digitally archived at countyofsb.org/1330/archives and on the county's YouTube channel. And we will do a roll call. Karen Kearns. Here. Bob Kubiak. Here. And Marshall Miller.
Present.
Nothing to report for the agenda status report? Oh, sorry about it.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. In regards to the status of our agenda, we have two items on the standard agenda. One is a line adjustment, and the other is a application to permit an as-built wall. Just as a matter of note, there are a number of items under number 12 and 13 under waive public hearing. Those are noticing purposes only, and there's no action required of the commission for those items. I can move to the projection report, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Mr. Chair, and Commissioners, looking at our projection report, we have a special hearing scheduled on September 24th. The Montecito Planning Commission will begin at 9 a.m.
Is that correct? Or I thought we were following the county on that. I'm sorry, Mr. Wilson. I don't mean to be argumentative.
Yes. No, Commissioner Miller is correct. So the County Planning Commission will meet meeting at 9, the Montecito Planning Commission at 1 next week.
I stand corrected. So you will meet September 24th at 1 o'clock. It's a special hearing, and during the Director's report, Director Plowman will provide some insight on what those items will cover briefly. But that is September 24th for that special hearing at 1 o'clock. And then when we look down the projection report, we have our next hearing regularly scheduled hearing on October 15th. And that's going to follow up that special workshop on the 24th, where we will bring back the streamlining and housing accommodation amendments for the Commission's consideration and action on October 15th. That's the only item on the 15th, and then moving down the rest of the year, we have nothing we do. On November 19th, we have a general zoning and ordinance amendment package before the Montecito Planning Commission, and then I don't think we have anything projected for December at this moment, other than looking way ahead at scheduling our commissioners' holiday luncheon. But it's early to be talking about that, so that's the projection report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I would now ask if there's any public comment. Open the floor for anything that's not on our standard agenda for today. Seeing none, we will move on to the Planning Commissioner's report.
The director.
Oh, no, this is, This is our ex parte, right?
So, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, this is for any items of interest that the commissioners may have been attended to that they want to bring to the attention of other commissioners. Otherwise, we can move forward if the commissioners don't have any information they want to share.
I don't have any, thank you.
It was only interesting that in tandem to everything that's going on in the discussions of housing, there was a general meeting of the American Institute of Architects with a very lively discussion about how to proceed or accelerate housing within the Santa Barbara area. And it was a kind of a very worthwhile discussion, but much more germane towards downtown than would probably be appropriate for Montecito, which has incredibly limited resources in terms of, building housing. But a worthwhile conversation nonetheless, and I think it was filmed and will be broadcast. And that's all I have to offer.
No ex parte of any relevance.
All right, would we do ex parte now? No.
So, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, it is not ex parte. This is like,
Right, this is just
as Chair Kupiak,
okay, I
there's
saw.
a similar type vein of information that you just want to bring
Okay.
bring to the attention of the other commissioners. So we can move to Director's report, Mr. Chair.
I guess my one comment would be, as I drive along North Jameson, I remain surprised at how much of Highway 101 is above grade to Jameson, after having been told by Caltrans that the problem was the retention of water because of sound walls. The amount of, the redesign of that project that came through made it clear that a decent percentage of what's going on in there would really not have been impacted by sound walls.
We are both surprised by many things from Caltrans, to our dismay. We're going to vote to approve the minutes of the May 21st meeting. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Seconded?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Now we can have the director's report.
And a lot has happened since you have last been here. I'm just going to hit some of the highlights of some things that have happened at the board level. We had our budget hearings in June. I don't know if any of you paid attention to that, but currently the county is pretty much status quo, but I think the news is from our 5-year forecast is that there are some stiff headwinds in the future in terms of budgets. I think all jurisdictions are feeling that. It's, trickling down from the state to the counties and the cities. So we'll be looking at ways to make sure we can keep our costs as reduced as possible as we move into the future in our future budgets. We had a mobile home park overlay ordinance package that essentially is designed to protect senior and non-age restricted mobile home parks across the county. And so we did an overlay, and they now have a preservation of those as a way to provide some additional affordable housing in our community. So that was, I think, a good step that the board took. Doesn't affect Montecito, but it's just a general county issue. We are, the department is going to be starting on an open space element update, which is required by the state, and that is it's due in 2026. And so we went to the board in September of this year to get direction on how we should proceed with that open space element. And the division will begin work on that probably in the long-range planning division, probably in the next several months. But the goal is we have a very, very outdated open space element. I think it's from the late 70s, actually. Yeah, and so we will be overhauling that, and we'll also be working with nonprofits that hold land in conservation, like the Nature Conservancy or the Land Trust, as well as publicly owned land to figure out where we can identify corridors for wildlife, rewilding possibilities, also engaging with Caltrans to look at their 101 corridor and figuring out where there might be the opportunity to provide some additional crossings. They did a big study along the Gaviota Coast recently, and there's good things that are coming out of that process. And so that's just something that will be in the works, but I wanted you to know that we're going to be kicking that off in the near future. We also were at the board in September. There was a grand jury report on housing, and that was addressed to all the cities and the county about what to do in the South Coast, about their assessment of the situation and recommendations on things that ought to be done. By and large, most of the things that they recommended are either something the state has already mandated or the county has already been working on in terms of streamlining the process for housing. So that will be, the board took action on that in September, and we will be, CEO's office will be sending that response over, and that's available online if people are interested in reading it. And then you should know that we also were required to produce an environmental justice element. That is a brand new element to the general plan. And the way the state required it is they said you could either have environmental justice policies sprinkled throughout your general plan, or in our case, comprehensive plan, or you could do a separate element. And because of the way our documents are constructed and our comprehensive plan is constructed, the county determined the most efficient way for the county to move forward is to have a separate element. And the environmental justice element really is geared towards identifying our disadvantaged communities and in the county, and we've identified a number of disadvantaged communities, and they include places like Cuyama, Ventacopa, Gary, Sisquoc, Casmelia, Los Alamos, and actually Isla Vista was included in this particular element because of the quality of housing and issues around that, and some of the low-income community that lives in Isla Vista. And the goal is to identify what the county can do to raise these communities up, to provide the services that they're currently missing in those communities. It's a little tricky because these communities are pretty rural, a lot of them, and in some cases those communities aren't really interested in having additional services because they live in the country because they want to be in the country. They don't really want some of the things that the county may offer, but there are groups of people in those communities that are in need of additional services. And so the whole document is really geared towards identifying current outreach efforts and programs that the county is already doing, and then identifying additional programs that the county could engage in to help those communities. So that's also, we have that on our website if you're interested in looking at that. And that's currently at the County Planning Commission. We had one hearing on it a couple weeks ago, and we will be hearing it again at the County Planning Commission in October. And then just a little bit about the upcoming workshop. So this is something new. We haven't done this necessarily in the past, but this ordinance package that we're bringing forward has a lot of components to it. And it's streamlining some of our zone districts to allow us to meet our RENA allocation. So it's updating the design residential zone district, which is our multifamily zone district. It's updating some of our commercial zone districts to make it more flexible to do mixed use development. And it's also doing a lot of different streamlining in our code, finding issues, as we work through projects, we find issues in our code that we want to correct. And so this package will include a lot of those things. So the idea behind the workshop is to really get the commissions familiar with the material that they're going to be seeing when we actually bring that ordinance package forward for action. So it gives you guys the opportunity to ask questions and make suggestions, et cetera. And then the other items are, we have upcoming items at the board. The board has asked the Community Services District, the Community Services Department and Planning and Development to come back with options regarding restrictions on oil and gas development in the county. And we are going to be bringing back options to the board on October 21st. And that would include the potential for no new facilities. It'll include the potential for amortizing the shutting down of current facilities. So that will all be discussed on the 21st. Also, the 4th District has asked that we bring information back about the status of idle and orphaned wells in the county and what kind of, and give them a status report on that so that that context can be set for the board before they give direction to both departments on how to move forward. We are also going to be moving forward with overhaul of our fee ordinance for planning and development. We did a substantial amount of work on a fee ordinance in 2017 when the department moved to a cost recovery model. And that's going to be going in November. And then we are also going to be looking at talking to the board about how we might be able to emphasize and work with developers for a local preference for the new housing that's being built under the housing element. There was a lot of discussion about that during the housing element preparation and the consideration of the element. And the community members expressed a concern that they wanted to make sure that the housing that our community was absorbing to meet the needs actually went to people who are living and working in the community. And so it's tricky with fair housing law. So we're looking at possible ways to create either incentives or work with developers on marketing plans to get those units marketed to our local community in advance of it really opening up on the market. So we're going to be talking to the board about that and getting some direction in November. And that's what I have today to report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Realizing that you're facing headwinds coming up, was there any discussion about why this deficit is occurring? Why is it less state funding, less federal funding, all of the above?
All of the above. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, and I think revenues aren't what they were. I mean, we had pretty substantial cannabis revenues for a period of time under the cannabis program, but those, I think at the high was $20 million annually for the county, and now it's down around 5 or 6 million. So it's all of those things that you're talking about. But definitely there have been shortages from the federal level, there are shortages at the state level, and so the departments that rely heavily on that kind of funding are getting hit pretty hard.
do you know of any other, I mean, other than the cannabis revenue drying up?
You know, I think there have been questions about sales tax revenue. We're hoping to bring the Biltmore online so we can have the bed tax revenue. So we're working with them to get that construction completed. But it's, and you know, property tax revenue sometimes doesn't meet the, meet what the expectations are.
Well, my hair was much less gray when the Biltmore was open.
I know. Mine too.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome back.
It's good to be back. I don't think there's anything we need to do about waive public hearing.
Well, I had a couple questions
Oh,
for
I'm sorry.
Director. We have now on a couple of different occasions been, as in the space of public comment, been given specific requests about changes to policy. I'm actually not really clear as to what we do with that when that comes in as public comment. And I know we don't speak to it in the public comment section, but to the extent that it is coming from the head of the Architectural Board of Review, it is my desire for this body to show a certain deference, or at least kind of attention to such requests. But we don't have there's no feedback loop process by which the Planning Commission kind of takes items, recommendation. What is the right way to have inter-body, inter-community communication where I feel badly if someone's putting a lot of effort into a request and we are neither responding to it nor forwarding it. We're turning it into kind of a dead letter folder. We can't address it. I'm not speaking to address specifically this letter, but we've had multiple instances of people coming in for that. What is the staff response about how to be interactive with the public, with the understanding that as a commission, we don't drive, at least as currently construed, don't drive policy generation?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I'm going to keep this brief because we're not agendized to talk about this item, which is the answer to your question. If there's matters before the commission that they would like to have an open discussion about, then the process would be to agendize it on the standard agenda and have a discussion about it. Depending on what that item is, for example, letters that come in requesting policy action, whatever, the recommendation is to work with Director Plowman in regards to what policy or changes may be coming forward. And then she could work with her staff or work with the commission on whether or not it's appropriate to bring that item into a public forum for agendized. But that's the format to bring items before the commission for discussion, is to put it on the agenda. But I strongly recommend working with Director Plowman before agendizing anything.
So this was I appreciate that, Mr. Wilson. And I think this is why I'm bringing it up in the director's report, in that this is the time that we speak with Director Plowman. Typically, what is the right type of interaction that would be both productive and use? I mean, I can move for an agenda item and request your presence for that for the next meeting to talk about this more fully. Is that the recommendation? I want this to be a little more deferential to you than how it's sounding.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Miller, through the chair. What I would recommend is that we talk offline if you have some things that you're interested in pursuing or that you want to bring to the commission for a possible broader discussion with the other commissioners. And then we can decide whether that is the right forum to bring it back here, or whether or not these are things that the department's already considering. So I think we should discuss that, and then we can decide what the best course of action is when those issues come up.
So I would like to kind of separate this slightly into two different buckets. One is things that Commissioner Miller, speaking in the third person, is passionate. I want to see more chicken coops, my cause. But if the public and or specifically members of MBAR are coming to us with requests, I want to kind of, what is a open and public way that we're kind of addressing that in dialogue with it's not necessarily my cause, but to ignore the matter is this is where I'm struggling with the kind of the appropriate public response, if that makes sense.
Well, some of the things you're not going to be able to address. I mean, that's probably the case. But
okay,
or you may not wish to. I mean, they may bring an item that you don't think is correct, or it's a decision for you as a commissioner as to whether you think that public comment has some merit that you'd like to further pursue. I mean, commissions and boards get public comment all the time, and some of it may be matters that are of concern to you, and some of it may not be. So it's your decision whether you want to come and speak to me about it, and then we can decide what the best course of action is.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
My next request is that as we're coming up with general plan amendments in the next couple of meetings, this is a request of organizational structure as they get presented to us. If we could have county staff present to us the section that is state mandated versus the section that is discretionary, and that when we were reading through like amendments to the language, if it is stuff that is mandated by state law, it doesn't matter how many times I bang my shoe on the table, this is what we're doing, versus if there is, these 5 paragraphs, don't bother arguing about because we're just implementing state law, versus these 3 paragraphs further down, there is discretion or review. Would it be possible to, as these things are being presented to us in the coming meetings, to draw them out as to kind of 2 different categories?
Commissioner Miller, through the chair, for items that you will hear, we can do that. You don't, the Montecito Planning Commission doesn't hear the open space element, it won't hear the environmental justice element because those are county-wide documents. And so the Planning Commission, County Planning Commission is the body that hears those. But anything that's tied to the Montecito Community Plan or ordinance items that are because of a state mandate that are being changed in the Montecito Land Use and Development Code, we are happy to highlight what is mandated by the state.
Okay. When we implemented the lighting code, there were sections that were very specifically state mandates, and there were some, this is not intended as any kind of critique, but there were some sections of just common sense changes that were coming out of the development of county staff that and understanding, I don't like putting the planning staff on the spot in the moment to say, well, is this changeable or not changeable? Because in that moment, it may not be an easy thing to recall off the top of your head. And so this is why I'm trying to put the request in at the now stage for future conversation.
No problem.
Thank you.
Although I do think that because we're a televised public forum, that as many times as there are changes that are being mandated by the state of California, that our general public kind of get to hear about it. I think it is vital information in terms of how government is reacting to, the critical problems of the day, and hopefully it may influence them as they walk into a polling booth. I think we can move on to the standard agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Plum.
Okay, we'll begin with item 1, 680 Buena Vista Avenue LLC lot line adjustment. Hearing on the request of Zoran Balbez, property owner, to consider the following: case number 25 LLA-00001, and to determine the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to state guidelines section 15305.
Here we are.
All right, thanks, Jonathan. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Soren Kringle, and I'll be presenting the Buena Vista Avenue Lot Line Adjustment Project, case number 25 LLA1. So shown here are the 2 parcels. Parcel 1 in blue is located at 680 Buena Vista Avenue. It is 2.167 gross acres in size. And parcel 2 in red is located at 1905 Tolis Avenue, and it's 1.041 gross acres in size. So before I get into the background details of the project, I just want to go over what's proposed. So the lot line adjustment will transfer 0.167 acres of land from parcel 1 to parcel 2. This ensures that parcel 1 remains conforming to the minimum lot size of the zone that it's in, the 2E1 zone district. And parcel 2, which is already legal nonconforming to minimum lot size, will grow in size and become less nonconforming. Aside from this transfer of property, There's no development proposed, and all utilities and access points will remain the same. So here's a graphic showing the two parcels, and here is the land that will be transferred from the blue parcel to the red parcel. So now just a high-level overview of the motivation behind the lot line adjustment, and then the agent can go into more detail on that. So parcel 1 contains a 0.43 acre exclusive easement that is granted to the owners of parcel 2, and it was granted in 2024. This easement was delineated on the previous slide with the yellow dashed line. I'll just go back to that real quick. So that is the exclusive use easement granted from parcel 1 to parcel 2. So this easement means that while the owners of parcel 1 own this land in fee, parcel 2 has exclusive rights to use that land. So the lot line adjustment will allow for parcel 2 to take ownership of the portion of this easement, and it will give them the rights to, if they want, potentially develop the land within this area. And should just note that this location was specifically chosen because it is set back from the road right-of-way, and it's hard to see in this photo, but it avoids some oak trees that are on the property line. So this project was analyzed for consistency with the Santa Barbara County Comprehensive Plan, the Montecito Community Plan, Chapter 21, the Land Division. The surveyor also reviewed the lot line adjustment exhibit and has conceptually approved it. And it was also analyzed for consistency with the Montecito Land Use and Development Code. And as mentioned before, the lot line adjustment ensures that parcel 1 will continue to conform with the minimum lot size requirements of the 2E1 zone, and parcel 2 will become less non-conforming to minimum lot size requirements. All existing development will continue to comply with setbacks, and the minimum lot width requirements for the parcels will be maintained. And staff determined the project to be exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15305, minor alterations in land use, which exempts projects including lot line adjustments on slopes of less than 20% that will not remove or impact environmentally sensitive habitat, native or specimen trees, and that do not impact historic resources. So if the commission concurs with staff's findings, the recommended actions are as follows. Make the required findings for approval of the project specified in attachment A. Determine the project exempt from CEQA pursuant to state CEQA guidelines section 15305, included as attachment C, and approve the project case number 25 LLA1 subject to the conditions of approval included as attachment B. This concludes staff's presentations, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
I think it would be appropriate to make any ex parte announcements.
I drove past the two lots,
Okay.
just to take a look from the road.
Yeah, I actually visited the property and met with the property manager and Mr. Lloyd to review the project.
I don't have any ex parte to disclose.
Is less non-conforming a public policy goal we have? Like,
Commissioner, through the chair, there is a policy that specifically states that if there is a legal lot that does conform as to minimum lot size requirements, that lot is not allowed to be transfer property to make it non-conforming as to minimum lot size. There's no benefit to becoming less non-conforming. However, we wouldn't allow for a lot that's already non-conforming as to minimum lot size to transfer property and become less non-conforming, if that makes sense. So this is, I don't know if that clarifies it for you.
so if we consider non-conforming a bad thing, getting more bad is not acceptable, but getting less bad without getting to good is not a positive. Am I, not to overly moralize this, but am I understanding this correctly?
That's correct, yeah.
Generally speaking.
I don't have any questions.
I guess a follow-up question. I understand lot line adjustments obviously they can happen on a repeated basis, but in general, they're kind of a foreverish kind of thing in my brain. Is it common to use like things like trees that have a finite lifespan as a guidepost to lot line adjustments? I mean, like, won't there come a time when the tree is gone, but the lot line is still kind of tweaked by it?
Yeah, members of the commission, Commissioner Marshall, or sorry, Commissioner Miller, my bad. I would say, the goal here was to just identify the area that was going to be most developable. And for various reasons, like the location of trees, the location of access, this particular area was selected, but in the interest of compliance with the Montecito Community Plan to preserve trees. Almost the entirety of the property line is planted with various trees that would potentially be protected by the Montecito Community Plan, and so they were just trying to select the area that was going to be most usable for the purposes of the lot line adjustment.
Yeah, Commissioner Miller too. There's various reasons someone comes in for a lot line. They're completely applicant driven. It's this applicant could have potentially tried to just give away the whole fee area, but it can't go below the 2 acre minimum. So this is what they came up with. I mean, we just don't know why people propose what they propose sometimes. So, but trees don't really. No, I wouldn't say that that's a driving force in a lot line adjustment.
Okay, no, I appreciate understanding county policy, county planning perspective on it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I think the applicant maybe want to say something.
Mr. Chair, Honorable Planning Commissioner members, my name is Mark Lloyd of LMP Consultants, representing both the applicants here today. I want to thank Zoran for his excellent presentation and the staff feedback to some of your questions. I'll briefly enlarge a perspective on the lot line adjustment. So, David, can you bring up that exhibit that Zoran had put up with the site plan? Or whoever's manning that. Thank you. So initially, the parcel 1 owner had purchased that property, 680 Buena Vista. It's an old 1930s Spanish-style estate. He bought it to remodel it and renovate it and put it back on the market. The property is actually made up of 2 assessors parcels. The yellow dashed area is one assessor's parcel, and then the remaining blue area to the left is another assessor's parcel. And then, of course, parcel 2, the red parcel, is again, another assessor's parcel. As you may know, under the government code, assessor's parcels are only a means for the tax collector to assess taxes. However, I would say in my experience, probably 98% of all parcels or assessor's parcels are configured as the legal lot would be. So with this owner of the blue parcel, or the buyer, he bought that with the expectation there would be 2 parcels there. He engaged me to look into the parcel validity there, and I've recorded a certificate of compliance or 2 in my time. And we beat the bushes for that, and we did not find that a legal lot had been created over that 1.6 or that yellow dashed area. Not unusual, but infrequent. So that parcel was created decades ago. That APN was created decades ago. It could have been that parcel itself was subject to a different taxation, a water district bond, something like that. There's really no explanation for that in the record. The use of the entirety of parcel 1, just about all of the Spanish estate uses, its ancillary yard areas, and all of the landscape areas are basically outside of the yellow dashed area. The yellow dashed area has a small shed in it. It really wasn't connected. The people who lived in that parcel were there for 50 years, passed away, and so the estate sold that. The My other clients with the red parcel have lived there for nearly 25 years. And over that time, they were used to the yellow dashed APN being a very low intensity use area by the blue parcel, parcel 1. And so when the parcel sold, they contacted the buyer of that and wanted to see if they could purchase that APN, thinking it was a legal lot, because they like to have the buffer and they were concerned that there would be some development over that they wouldn't control, maybe a paddleball court or something like that. And so they wanted to see if they could control that. Again, I did the parcelability study, was not able to find a legal lot there to get a certificate of compliance on that. So working with the two property owners and their attorneys, we recorded an exclusive use easement over the APN. That exclusive use easement follows the same boundaries. And then my suggestion to them was that you could transfer what I would term the access fee, the amount of the lot that is over 2 acres, to the smaller 1 acre parcel 2. And so in configuring that parcel, you really don't see it here, an aerial photo might be better, but you can look below the red 1.67 acre area and you can see a black dashed outline of the trees there. There's 3 or 4 oak trees, some very nice large stone pine, a very nice Monterey cypress there. And then to the north, you have the shed and 2 or 3 oak trees up there. So my reasoning, and again, as staff has noted to you, our project doesn't propose development. The lot line adjustment is the sole thing before you today. Lot line adjustments have nothing to do with tree protection per se. They just outline a boundary. And I have many lot line adjustments that have many species trees in them. It's really the subsequent development proposals that trigger the tree protection issues. However, as a somewhat far-sighted planning individual, I look at a configuration that is going to have the least impacts on our environment and protected species. So that's why we came up with the configuration we did. So the two benefits of this configuration on our mind was that the area outside the red in the exclusive use area cannot be developed for any structural kind of development. In the agreement on the exclusive use area, there is not an allowance for that. The area in red can be developed in the future as with some form of development. We already have a primary structure, so the adjusted lot is not an individual standing lot, but is included in the red lot. There's a primary structure there, we're only allowed 1. There's already a pool cabana there, we're only allowed 1. So they could probably do an ADU or a guest studio or studio in that red area. But we thought that was the best area to have future development considerations because we protect these. They're actually quite beautiful trees down below. They may not be there forever, but they're there now and they're beautiful and we want to keep them. We also thought that sliding it down in the parcel instead of having the area up along the street frontage, we were actually creating a greater setback to development. Right now, and you can see that dashed line that goes through the top of the yellow dashed parcel and continues to the left around the blue parcel, the streets. That is the setback line. It's at 20 feet from the right-of-way. We're actually, with this configuration, going to be about 60 feet back. So we thought that was a good thing, a good planning thing to do for the community. And if there was future development there, it would be very demurred, set back, fit in with the property, et cetera, et cetera. So that is the reasoning behind the lot line adjustment. I will have you know that when the exclusive easement transferred, it had a valuation on it that was part of the paperwork that you fill out with the assessor, and the value was there. So the assessor already had that parcel as a tax parcel and has appropriately raised that taxation to that purchase price, which was significant. And so I imagine the assessor will remap these for our adjustment because there will be a fee transfer of the 1.67 acre parcel, combining it into the parcel 2 area, and there'll be new assessor's maps done. I don't know what those configurations would be. So that is the purpose and intent of what we're doing, and I'm here to answer any further questions you may have. Seeing none, thank you. And again, I want to congratulate Zorn on his presentation and his help in getting this done. I believe that we have one modification to a condition of approval, and I take it that Zorn was going to mention that, but I wanted to remind us about it because I didn't hear about it yet. Thank you very much.
Okay, so for that condition of approval, I don't have the condition number. I could pull that up in a second, but it's condition map dash 04 TPM TM LLA submittals. And it's prior to the recordation of the lot line adjustment, the owner applicant shall submit a lot line adjustment map prepared by a licensed land surveyor, or registered civil engineer to the county surveyor. And then here's the change. I have the parcel map shall conform to all approved exhibits. Instead, we will just have the map shall conform to all approved exhibits.
I heard those two sentences and the change. Could you maybe walk us through the significance of the change?
I don't think it's a huge deal. The parcel map versus is a different type of map, I suppose, than just the lot line adjustment exhibit. A parcel map is like an entirely separate type of case type. So instead of saying the parcel map, I'm just referencing to the lot line adjustment exhibit that's going to be recorded by the surveyor.
So is there a practical consequence to this difference, or like
So, yeah, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, Commissioner Miller, yeah, there is a difference. So as Mr. Kringle mentioned, a parcel map is a different instrument. And so what we're saying is we're correcting that condition to articulate that what's required is just a map to be submitted to the surveyor's office. A parcel map is a separate instrument that is usually used when you divide a property. That's not what's happening here. This is just a lot line adjustment. So that's why there's a significance in changing it to make it correct. So that's why there's a change in the condition. So there's a difference between saying just a map and a parcel map. So there's significance to the terminology.
So is one of these like, when I go on the county website and I get lost in APN land, like, is it not changing the, book 8, page 14 map? It's just changing, it's just somewhere in a record, or?
So Mr. Chair and Commissioners, so as the applicant indicated and staff, this is changing a legal lot line. So at some point, the assessor's office will change the assessor parcel number map to align with this legal parcel. But this is a different action than parcel maps. This is moving a legal lot line. No new APN. Correct. So this is just a legal lot line that they're adjusting, which is different than dividing a property. So that's where Mr. Kringle's indicating we're changing that condition to make it accurate.
Okay.
Sorry, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to make public comment on this project? Speaker slips, seeing none.
We have two people in the
we do have
attendees
two.
column. If anybody would like to make a public comment on this item, please raise your hand in the chat. Seeing none.
So we will close public comment and move on to commissioners' comments, if there are any.
In general, when it's two private lots and it's not touching the public access or something, I'm kind of everyone's consenting adults, why not? Is a little bit where I'm interested in what the county has as a take on it, obviously in compliance with the law, but if this is what homeowners want, I see no reason not to.
I see this as a really creative way for the two landowners to come up with something that helps both sides. So I don't have any objections, and I appreciate the presentations.
Having visited the site, I think this is a very clever way. Mark, I think you've done a good job. And I think, it's kind of like a good neighbor policy where this is a win-win situation for everybody involved. So, I can't see any reason not to approve this. If there are no other comments.
That I would make a motion to approve the recommended findings with the removal of the unfortunate word parcel from.
So Chair and Commissioners, if we could, I'm just providing some recommending guidance on the motion. So just, you could say on number 3 is to approve the project, subject to the conditions as revised today, and that'll take care of the change.
A little less folksy by me, is that what you're saying, Mr. Wilson? Okay. I'd like to amend my motion to be, I vote to move to approve the recommended actions as amended on attachment B today.
I'll second the motion.
Roll call, vote?
Okay, roll call, Karen Kearns,
Approve.
Bob Kubiak,
Approve.
Marshall Miller.
Approve.
All carries 3-0.
Thank you. Made it easy. We move on to item number 2, the Promised Land LLC. You want to read that into the? Even with the attachments, I didn't understand this.
Okay, item number 2, Promised Land LLC as-built wall. Hearing on the request of Robert Green to consider the following case number 23 CDH-00027 and to determine the project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15302, replacement or reconstruction.
Good morning, Chair, members of the Commission. My name is Kathleen Volpe, and I will be presenting the proposal for the Promised Land LLC as-built wall. And just bear with me, I have a little bit of a cough, so I may lose my voice. Thanks. Here we have aerial photos of the subject parcel. The image on the left shows the vicinity of the parcel, and the image on the right provides an enlarged view of the project site. The subject property is located at 1690 San Leandro Lane. It's within the coastal zone in the Montecito Community Plan area. The 4.01 acre panel is residentially zoned to E1 and is highlighted in green on the vicinity map. Access to the site is offered via San Leandro Lane, which is identified by the orange line. San Ysidro Creek is shown as a blue line on both images, and the red circle depicts the area of development. The project before you today is a request for a coastal development permit to legalize an as-built, approximately 110-foot-long grouted sandstone boulder wall within the San Ysidro Creek. The wall ranges in height from 2 to 12 feet and is 7.5 to 15 feet wide. The subject parcel is a legally created lot. The property is developed with a single-family residence constructed around 1919, along with a guest house, garage, carriage house, carport, pool, and pool house, all permitted in 1986. San Ysidro Creek runs through a small portion of the property, and an existing grouted sandstone boulder wall is located within the creek. While the exact date of the wall's original construction is unknown, historical aerial photographs show its presence as early as 1954. The parcel was significantly impacted by the 2018 debris flows, which destroyed a portion of the existing wall within the creek and one on-site structure. As part of the post-event cleanup, the property owner repaired the structure and reconstructed the destroyed portion of the sandstone wall. While building permits were obtained for the structural repairs, no permits were secured for the wall reconstruction. This permit will rectify this and validate the wall construction. Because the wall is located within a creek, several overlays apply. Notably, the FEMA floodway overlay, shown in blue on the image to the left, and the riparian environmentally sensitive habitat ESH overlay, shown in green on the image on the right. The project was reviewed for compliance with county flood control. The project was reviewed for compliance with county flood control regulations, and a biological report was prepared by Watershed Environmental Inc. to evaluate potential environmental impacts. Flood control provided clearance on the project, and the bio report determined the repair work on the wall resulted in less than significant impacts to the riparian ESH. Here we have the overall parcel site plan on the left and a close-up of the wall plan on the right. Setbacks for the property are shown by the blue dotted lines on both images. A flood control easement is shown by the purple line on the left image, and the wall is highlighted in red on the right image. As discussed, flood control has thoroughly reviewed the project and found that the wall did not change the capacity of the creek and meets all its requirements. On this slide, we have wall sections. Previous wall sections are shown on the left, and the as-built wall sections are shown on the right. As the sections demonstrate, the rebuild was like for like. The project is consistent with a comprehensive plan, including the Montecito Community Plan. The as-built wall replicates the original in both design and materials and continues to be in conformance with the scale and character of the existing community. A biological report was prepared and no significant impacts to ESH were found. Additionally, the Department of Fish and Wildlife reviewed the project and has provided a letter of clearance. The wall was constructed without grading and designed to fit the site topography, soils, geology, and hydrology. The applicant submitted a no-rise certificate, detailed engineering plans demonstrating no reduction in the creek's water carrying capacity, and a 100-year base flood elevation BFE calculations. These materials were reviewed and approved by County Flood Control. The project is consistent with all applicable Article 2 and E1 zone development standards. It is located on a residentially developed parcel containing a single-family dwelling and associated residential accessory structures. The wall functions as an accessory feature to the residential use and constitutes a like-for-like replacement intended to maintain the creek's original flow, direction, and capacity consistent with pre-disaster conditions. A portion of the as-built wall is located within the required setbacks. However, pursuant to Article 2, Section 35-123, fences, walls, and gates that do not exceed a height of 8 feet are exempt from setback requirements. The project meets all applicable development standards for native plant communities and all applicable stream habitat policies. No specimen or native trees were removed or significantly disturbed during construction, and no sensitive plant species were impacted. Precautions were taken during construction to protect the remaining ESH and avoid additional impacts within the San Ysidro Creek. CDFW and County Flood Control provided clearance on the project. The proposed project can be found exempt through CEQA Section 15302, which allows replacement or reconstruction of existing structures where the new structure will be located on the same site as the replaced structure and will have substantially the same purpose and capacity. Given that the as-built grouted sandstone boulder wall was constructed within the same footprint and built in a like-for-like fashion with the existing wall that was destroyed, and the project has demonstrated no change in capacity, the project can be found exempt from CEQA. Staff recommends that your commission makes the required findings for approval of the project, determine that the project is exempt from CEQA, and grant approval of the project subject to the conditions of approval. And staff is now available for questions.
Any questions from the commission? I have a couple, but you can go.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question about the setback that you mentioned. You're allowed an 8-foot height structure in a setback area, but if I understood correctly, the wall has an area that's 12 feet? And is that part of the wall not in the setback?
Commissioner Kern, through the chair. So the way that the wall is located within the creek, so it is from the baseline level, right? So it's actually below, it doesn't extend above the creek 8 feet, essentially, right? So the top of the creek bank would be the starting height for a wall, essentially. And so it doesn't meet that requirement. Does that make sense?
Yes, I believe so. You're saying the wall goes to the base of the creek.
Correct.
Okay. And this wall, as it's rebuilt in the photographs and then diagrams we have, the creek is flowing above and below this one wall portion. Is there a wall in other portions of the creek, or is there just a wall in this one small section?
There's an existing wall that runs a good portion of the creek. I don't know exactly how many linear feet, but basically what we're looking at is a portion of the existing wall that was destroyed, was repaired during the cleanup efforts of the debris flow. And so it's one section of a longer wall that has been replaced.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Volpe, I appreciate the work that you've done on this, and thank you. So that said, I'm a little interested in the history here, and I understand that this isn't from you as an individual, but why are we hearing this? I mean, didn't the Army Corps come in with, didn't they grant emergency permits for restoration up and down the whole? Once again, I appreciate the work you're doing to try and rectify this, but a little bit I'm just confused as to, this happened 5 years ago. If I read this correctly, this came from a violation that was reported 2 years ago, and there were up and down the creek level permits for all kinds of work that were happening. Tell me the story of how we got here, I guess is what I'm curious. Appreciating that you have done good, that you were handed this and that you had to do the work to get this here. I'm just, maybe how it got to you before you carried it the rest of the way.
Commissioner Miller through the chair. So essentially, cleanup efforts were done in 2018 by the owner. And at that time, County Flood Control and ACOE were in the creek doing their own repairs. What happens during a disaster is a disaster case is open, and that's used to track repairs that owners may do in a like-for-like fashion. But we don't have, it doesn't state in the record exactly what was done. And so, as I stated previously, a structure was also destroyed and replaced. And so the applicant went and they got building permits for that, but they were unaware that they needed to get building permits for the fixing of the creek wall. And so I don't work for enforcement, but a complaint came in, and so the enforcement went out and looked, and they noticed that the grouted sandstone wall was existing there, and that we couldn't find any permits for it. So essentially the owner, when they were getting the building permits for the structure that they replaced, they didn't get permits for the wall, and that's what brings us here today.
Mr. Chair, I would also add to that. So Ms. Volpe is absolutely correct, and the nuance with this one is that it's in the coastal zone and it's in the appeals jurisdiction, and so there are a number of walls that were existing that were replaced that were exempt from permits, even just shortly up the way on the same property, there was another portion of the wall that was replaced, but it's in the inland area. So we as staff determined that it didn't need to get a permit. But in this case, because it's in the appeals jurisdiction of the coastal zone, it does require a coastal development permit. So there is, I think that's kind of maybe some of the nuance that you were looking for.
That nuance is very helpful.
Yes, thank you very much. That was what
Who would have filed a complaint? Well, and why?
Mr. Chair, as far as our enforcement process goes, we do not divulge any the name or the identity of people who complain.
Well, I would like to know the motive.
We do not collect the motive for the complaint either. We just collect the complaint and then we review it to see whether or not it is valid.
So I'm assuming that the repairing of this wall to its existing condition in no way impacted any adjacent property. Would that have been a concern for flood control?
Mr. Chair, so the project was reviewed by flood control staff, and part of their review evaluates whether or not there's any change in conveyance capacity of the creek. And so they did meet the criteria that flood control reviews this for, and so
Great.
to your answer, flood cleared it for that specific issue.
Great, thank you.
I have a follow-up question to that. Does that include looking at the downstream additional properties where this creek ends up down by where they're building the sound walls? Okay, so the creek continues, and does flood control make sure whatever changes were made up creek don't affect downstream?
So, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, so I believe that we have a representative from Flood Control online that they can respond to specific questions about the downstream influences. My basic takeaway is that when Flood Control reviews a project for conveyance capacity, they're looking to make sure that it's no change to existing. So that there would not be a change to flood issues downstream from it based on existing.
Thank you.
Does the applicant have a presentation?
Is it on now? Okay, great. Good morning, Chair Kupiak, Commissioners. I'm Laurel Fisher-Perez with SEPS Land Use Consulting, representing our client, the project applicant. And it's a pleasure to be with you all here this morning. I see David's going to queue up our presentation. I really appreciate the questions that came out. I'll hit some of those as well in my presentation. I wanted to start by thanking staff for their hard work in getting us here this morning. I was also prepared to thank Commissioner Senauer, who met me on site yesterday and trekked through the ivy and boulders and terrain to see the wall. She really wanted to see that in person, and I think it was very helpful to her understanding. I'm sorry she's not here this morning, but we'll go ahead and get going. Let me advance to the next slide. Oh, there we go. Okay, a little bit on the project background. As you all understand, we are here requesting your commission's approval of an as-built coastal development permit for the creek wall repair work that occurred in 2018, immediately following the debris flow. That was 7 years ago. And as you understand, just a portion of this existing sandstone grouted boulder wall that exists along San Ysidro Creek was repaired at that time. And based on historical photos and the project's historian, our applicant, or our client rather, engaged a historian to look at and assess the wall and its likely age, we estimate that the wall was originally constructed prior to 1945 and likely prior to permit requirements. How did we get here today? It's an excellent question. So this is a timeline that really charts that. Immediately following the debris flow, the prior property owner in 2018 obtained emergency approval to repair just a portion of a wall that existed on the property, as well as repair several structures that were damaged by the debris flow and property damage in general. And so they obtained the necessary clearance from the county to do this property-wide repair work, which included work to repair the damaged section of the creek wall like for like. The owner took extreme precautions, I want to point that out, and you'll see that in a couple of photos that I'll show you next, with the repair work that occurred to the wall to protect the habitat that was remaining. A lot of the environmentally sensitive habitat had been destroyed in the debris flow, but they located their equipment on the inland side, if you will, of the wall, and utilized a hand crew to bring 5-gallon buckets down to repair by hand the grouted sandstone boulders that had been destroyed during the debris flow, making sure that they were avoiding any additional impacts to the creek corridor itself and the habitat. These repairs occurred alongside the Public Works Flood Control staff, as well as the Army Corps of Engineers staff. We know that because the photos I'm about ready to show you next were taken by County Flood Control in 2018 while they were clearing out debris in the creek corridor. Everyone was aware that this work was going on, and the owner at the time did in fact go forward to the county and apply for approval to do repair work and identified the scope of work that included the damage to the structures and other property damage, but neglected to identify in the written scope of work repairing this section of the creek wall. Were it not for that, we wouldn't be here today, more than likely, because that would have been permitted at that time with after-the-fact permits that were obtained for all the other repair work that occurred. Building permits were issued for the other activities shortly following the work that was completed. Okay, so then you see that so near 5 years later, in April of 2023, the now property owner receives a notice of violation for this repair work that occurred to that section of the wall following the debris flow. And as we've heard, that notice of violation was filed as a result of somebody calling in a complaint. So here we are, 7 years later. The property owner engaged a full team of experts, including civil engineer, biologist, historian, surveyor, our office, to prepare an as-built plan set that has been reviewed and vetted by your county flood control staff as well as P&D, along with the no-rise analysis that was done by our civil engineer, confirming that there has been no change to the carrying capacity of the creek as a result of this like-for-like wall repair, and no damage to the environmentally sensitive habitat at the time that the wall repair work was completed. These are the photos I was referencing. On the left-hand side is a photo, and you can see that the heavy equipment that's in the creek corridor, that's flood control and Army Corps equipment, clearing out debris shortly following the debris flow. And you can see the wall that exists on your right-hand side. The photo on the right actually shows the property owner's crew out there repairing this small segment of the existing wall. So you can see that they had an excavator on the inland side of the wall, helping to clear out debris, but also lowering the boulders that had been blasted through onto the property and re-grouting them in place by hand. And at that time, you can also see that the creek, the bottom of the creek is significantly higher than it is today and probably was before the debris flow. Since the debris flow, we had another major storm, as you may all recall, a couple years following the debris flow that then scoured out the creek so that it's even lower. A couple little nuances here. A portion of the wall is off our client's property and actually on a separate parcel, and that's the portion to the left. The portion to the right is the wall that we are asking to obtain a coastal development permit for this as-built work. This is a photo of the wall. I'm standing on top of the wall, taking a picture of it. And you can see it continues on up the creek, north along the creek. The ivy portions are existing portions of this wall that were not damaged. You can actually tell where the damaged portion of the wall is in this photo by the lighter color of the grout that was used to replace the boulders. Again, the biological report confirmed that there were no impacts that occurred to ESHA at the time of the wall repair, and the no-rise analysis confirmed that the wall repair did not create a rise in the water surface elevation or change the flow pattern of the creek. So with that, we're here requesting your commission's approval of this coastal development permit. We have our civil engineer here with us if you have any additional questions. Our biologist is on the line and can also answer questions, as can our team. So we appreciate your attention to this matter. Thank you very much.
I'm familiar with the term ash. What does A on the end mean?
I'm sorry, what was that, Commissioner, through the chair?
This is, I'm familiar with environmentally sensitive habitat as
Oh,
an
A.
acronym, but you were using environmentally sensitive habitat and then the letter A on the back end, and I was unfamiliar with what the A stood for.
Through Chair Kupiec, Commissioner Miller, the A is oftentimes used by biologists and others. It stands for area, environmentally sensitive habitat area. And so we throw out these terms all the time, ESHA. You'll hear that. Sometimes you'll hear ESH, environmentally sensitive habitat. Sometimes you'll hear environmentally sensitive habitat area.
Thank you.
I think they were concerned that ESHA sounds better than
Yeah.
Well, I had heard ash repeatedly. I just never heard A on the end, so I figured that there was significance to that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I have no questions.
I don't have any further questions.
We would ask if there's any public comment to be made on this application. Anyone online?
I do see one hand up in our attendees column. Marty Hyduke, if you'd like to unmute yourself, if you have a comment on this item.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My husband and I are homeowners in Ennisbrook. We live at 211 Bozique Parkway. And we were severely impacted before we built our home here in 2018 by the mud flow. We took unbelievable amounts of mud immediately away from our native oak habitat in what would be our backyard. We were under the protection at that time and under the observation of a botanist, Mary Carroll, you may know the name. And she informed us we immediately had to remove that mud away from the oaks, and we did. The reason we purchased the property was because we loved the native oaks and we loved the creek. Okay, so we cleaned that up, and going forward, we built our home. And then lo and behold, on the same date, in the same month, we had a huge flood, which again took out a good 2/3 of our backyard and the oak habitat. So looking at the creek, there are two walls on the creek. One of them looked like a very old wall with concrete, which I have been given to understand, actually by David Vianiello, that you are not allowed to use concrete in any part that would touch a waterway, a natural waterway. I don't have independent knowledge if that's the case or not, but I'm taking his word for it. Obviously, there's quite a bit of concrete grout holding that relic of a wall up. I understand it's been there forever. And then we have upstream a large boulder wall, and I hear that referred to as like for like repair. As a creek trail walker myself, it's right in my backyard. I can assure you that was not rebuilt like for like. There were imported boulders stacked on the property way above the creek. And by a crane, I have photographs and videos of these boulders being lowered to add to the few original boulders that were ever there. And forgive my allergies, I'm not sick. So, all of this to say, I believe both of these walls, and for sure the concreted wall, when the floodwaters hit that concreted wall, it shoves the floodwaters and the mud and the boulders directly onto our four properties along Bozique Parkway. We have Carlos Araya, who wrote a letter to you. He was the most impacted because he's closest to the upper part of that creek. We are next door to him. Then we have the Jenkins, and then we have Dr. and Mrs. Ryu. All four of us were impacted. We are the only ones who cleared our property off because we have our property landscaped with native plant materials, which our botanist told us we were allowed to do in the oak habitat. So these are my questions. I think what you're proposing permitting is only adding to our grief and our agony and the disaster in our yard moving forward. So I'm proposing that perhaps you may want to carry this forward. Let me submit my photographs of
I'm so sorry.
the older boulders in action being lowered onto an area where they were not. It was not like for like. They put
Ma'am,
boulders
I'm
where
so
there was
sorry.
nothing but vegetation and dirt.
Ms. Hyduk, that has been your 3 minutes. If you could wrap up your
I'm
thought.
finished. Yes, I'm
Yep.
finished.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And that concludes public comment.
We will close public comment since there are no other public comments, and we will have discussion by the commissioners.
Chair and Commissioners, we do have Matt Griffin with Flood Control District online if you have any questions for him.
I do have a question. I mean, this assertion is that this wall was not there and was not being prepared like for like, and I would assume that flood control has some knowledge of whether or not this actually is a like for like repair.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, Jonathan will double check to make sure he's showing up there, so we will bring him online.
Matt, can you hear us?
I can, yes. Good morning, Vice Chair Kubiak. So there are two projects I believe being talked about here. The one before you today, I think, has been demonstrated as a like for like rebuild. The other wall I'm aware of. I'm not, although I don't know the current status. So that's something we can look into and talk with planning about.
So is it the finding of county flood control that the river course or the flow course has not been negatively modified from pre-2018 till now by, I understand Mother Nature, but by the act of man?
Yeah, Commissioner Miller through Vice Chair Kubiak. Essentially, yes, the applicant has demonstrated through their no-ride certification that they're not impacting the conveyance of the creek by the work performed.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. One is relating to the flood protection district. Looking at any before photographs that showed, did they have independent knowledge of the wall being similar or the same as it is now before the debris flow?
Commissioner Kearns through Vice Chair Kubiak. One of the photographs that was presented by the applicant was a flood control district photograph. And I think they demonstrated that wall pre-existed for a long time prior to 2018.
So my other question probably is not for you, but I'm assuming that the homeowners in the area got a notice, just like everyone does in our community when there's something coming before the commission, and the person that called had adequate notice and opportunity to provide her objection and apparently did not do so in a timely fashion?
I would defer that to planning and development as far as the noticing requirements.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, I can go and respond to that. So the project is a coastal development permit, so there's multiple notices that go out for the project. The notice, when we have a complete project, would have gone out. That goes to neighbors and occupants within 300 feet. And then the notice for this hearing today also goes out 10 days before the hearing. Similarly, that should go out to occupants and residents within 300 feet.
So it's possible that this person that had public comment is not within the 300-foot boundary. Would that be a possibility? Someone in Innisbrook?
That is a possibility, yes.
Okay. I don't have any further comments or questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Kearns, just to respond one other item along the Innisbrook notification. Our office actually notified Innisbrook Homeowners Association that this hearing was coming forward. And we spoke with the Homeowners Association president, who informed us that she would inform her Homeowners Association well in advance of this hearing and the topic. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you very much.
Just for fun, can you bring up the photograph that shows from the creek side, the wall being repaired? If that's possible. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I guess we don't have zoom in capacity to. No, the other one was the right one because it really shows the section of the wall. You can see where the piece of wall is lighter color, the grout's different. There's the existing wall in the foreground. It's the right-hand picture. And then you go in and the wall's being repaired between two segments of the wall where there was an existing wall. I think it's obvious that this is a repair in a like-for-like fashion. I just want to make sure that everybody's clear about that. The picture is definitive proof.
You're referring to photo 2?
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other comments by the commissioners? I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the recommendations of staff to approve the coastal development permit.
Second.
Roll call.
We'll do a roll call. Karen Kearns,
Approve.
Bob Kubiak,
Approve.
and Marshall Miller.
Approve.
Motion carries 3-0.
So, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, before we adjourn, we wanted to bring the projection report back up. It's in regards to the special hearing next week. I just wanted to, again, apologize for stating the wrong time, but it is scheduled, special hearing scheduled for next week at 1 p.m. for the Montecito Planning Commission. And we just wanted to check in with the commissioners that are present today, who will be here next week.
I will be present.
I'll be present.
I am potentially not present, but I'm curious as to whether there's a quorum without me.
So just looking at the count here, if Commissioners Kupiec and Kearns are here, Commissioner Americano or Chair Americano did indicate he would be able to attend until 3. So I think that means we have a quorum in the room. I'm unsure of Commissioner Senauer's status at this point for next week. And then if Commissioner Miller isn't able to attend either, it sounds like we have at least a quorum in attendance.
Yeah, I'd like to notice me to appear remotely at that.
Okay, so in that case,
If I may, if you have a quorum in the room, I would like to appear remotely.
okay, yeah, just send me that information. I'll update the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think we are ready to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you
See
to the staff.
next week.